What is up, you guys? It's your boy Captain Jack. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have quite a crew. We have Derek Van Hook, we got Garrett running the boat, we have Richard and his son Ricky, as well as Mario. This is going to be a multi-day trip where the objective is to get fish for dinner and then a little bit to take home. We are heading to remote islands in a remote area. Something we're doing a little bit different is the spots we are diving are some that we've never been to. I have like 1 or 2 spots in the area that I know are good, and then we went on Google Earth and looked at those images and kind of compared them to other images in the area, and we were hoping to run, check out spots, find new areas, and that's what this trip is about. All primitive pole spears and Hawaiian slings. I actually went to the dive shop and got rigged up with something pretty interesting, so I'm gonna roll footage back to that, and I'll see you guys over at Exhale Spearfishing. What is up, you guys? I am about to go on a long Bahamian adventure. I'm gonna visit my buddy over here at Exhale Spearfishing. I dropped some stuff off, and you guys are gonna actually see what he has set up for me. I'm not quite sure yet, but he knows his stuff. We got Eric.
What's going on?
Exhale Spearfishing in Jupiter. About a couple days ago, I dropped off some shafts, some Hawaiian slings, and I basically just dropped them off and I said, hey, you do your thing. Because he's gonna walk you through. A lot of you asked about the Hawaiian sling, what diameter rubber I'm using, all that stuff. I don't really know, because every time I go, he's the one who sets everything up, and it usually just works flawlessly. So he's gonna do a quick little run through of this Hawaiian sling.
So there's the old legend right there.
Yeah,
the classic.
We made it together, right?
Is this the original?
Yeah, that's the original.
Nice. You know what I almost did too? I just didn't have quite enough time. I was gonna do a nice little lasered Captain Jack Spearo.
Dude, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll have to do that eventually.
That'll be the next project. What I dropped off earlier last time.
So we got a pretty cool setup. Jack dropped off these. These are pretty trick. That's the Headhunter sling shafts with slip tips on them. It's like kind of I don't know. It's a rare item.
Yeah.
That's hard to come by. So to shoot these guys, they usually need a little bit more power, maybe a little bit more power stroke. And what I'm kind of referring to there is how far this band's actually powering the shaft. So what we ended up doing with Jack's sling, I don't think I have the original band laying around, but he had a pretty long, pretty stiff band on this. So he wasn't stretching it out very far. Obviously, Jack's got like probably the largest wingspan of anybody I know. So I was getting stretched pretty far, but it was also a really big band. So you're not getting quite as much like push all the way close to the sling as possible. So I've gone with a little bit lighter band setup. So this is actually, it's still a 1/2-inch tubing, which is what he had on there before, but it's a little bit thinner wall thickness. It's also a different brand of tubing that's much, much, much more elastic. So you can actually shorten this band significantly, get a lot more stretch out of it, and put more power into that shaft as it's coming out. So we've got both of these slip tip shafts rigged up with his little monos down there.
Oh, yeah. And the reason I use that mono is because it doesn't tangle as easy, and it kind of just bows out, and that way whenever I shoot, there's nothing holding the shaft back. Like, it's not like peeling line off the reel. Exactly. Until once it actually hits the fish, then if the fish takes off, then it'll start using the reel. But
it's also a lot smoother too, so it's a little less drag.
Yeah,
that's kind of the key with all this sling stuff. Once you get into the reels and slide rings on the shafts, and especially the slip tips, the more drag you add into the equation, the slower it's gonna go. So every little thing we can do to speed stuff up is gonna make a big difference.
Yeah, I'm excited to see these slip tips though. Like, I mean, I'm gonna that's what I'm gonna use on this trip, and we're gonna put them to the test, shooting pelagics, and it's the same exact. Well, it's a showstopper, but it's the same length slip tip as the Headhunter, like, because it is Headhunter, so it's the same slip tip that we're using. So we just need that little bit of penetration, and hopefully it sticks in the fish, because I did run into issues of the other shaft kind of tearing out, and this will hopefully minimize that.
And of course,
a little bit.
In true Headhunter fashion, everything that Brad makes is, I mean, you can't compare.
Yeah.
The dude makes the best stuff.
Yeah, it's so
when it comes to
slick
Bahamas gear, nobody does it better. I mean, everything is manufactured to a T, so.
Yeah, and if you want to pick up some Headhunter gear, you can come to Exhale. Again, if you're in Jupiter area, I know I have some followers that are in Jupiter. Go ahead and check this place out. He's got everything you need. And we've been working, my original Rob Allen roller, he set it up that I've been using for like 9 years. and like the OG, the first main the main spear gun I ever used. He set it up. We failed at first.
Yeah, when rollers first, nobody was really messing with them.
Yeah,
that was like the first rollers we ever played around with.
Yeah, and I missed Wahoo because we had no idea like the amount of tension that thing needed. And so I just like would bring it in the shop, we'd shoot the breeze, I'd go back out, shoot it, come back, make adjustments, and yeah, I got that thing dialed in. And now he's got some of the rollers here, the 120 rollers. These things are a masterpiece. And he's got over here the Timberline. And he actually has a double roller on it. So that's something that I'm kind of geeking out about. But if you want to come and check out the arsenal he has here, I'll leave a link in the description below. And again, this is my go-to. It's a little bit of a drive, but it's worth it for me. We are all geared up now, so I'll see you guys back out there on the boat. All right, so now that I'm all geared up, we are gonna send it, and nothing more to say, but then I will see you guys down below. All right, you guys, welcome underwater and welcome to the voiceovers. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, follow along with all these adventures, and also get some tips and tricks. And right now, go ahead and hold your breath with me as I make one of the first dives of the day. Again, these are areas that we kind of just found through Google Earth. And the first thing we saw was a hogfish, and we needed some hogfish for some ceviche. So I wanted to make sure I lined up on this guy. When I shot, I just let that slip tip engage and it just ripped right out. And this is a really good thing to do whenever you're testing new gear. Shoot a fish as soon as you can so you can really put your stuff to the test.
Crep slipped.
After a little bit of examining, I found out that Eric used a single crimp on the end of this. But honestly, what it really needed ended up being a loop, and he said he was a little worried about it, so I'm really glad that I got in the water, tested it on a fish before I went after some, really big pelagics. And that's, at least we know that when you're new doing stuff, this is how you learn, trial and error. Luckily, it wasn't that much of a loss. I just had to go down quickly, do another dive shortly after. Ended up seeing it was a nice little lobster nest there, so I decided to make that mark on the GPS, so once season opens, we will have a nice lobster honey hole. And again, this is how you find spots, is going around exploring, and every time I go out diving is always a different experience. As I was talking about exploring and finding new spots, this is a prime example. Mario and I chased this black grouper into a hole which ended up being an absolute masterpiece of a little honey hole that can hold grouper. It's like little Swiss cheese bottom, and this guy was perfectly placed in this Swiss cheese, thinking he was really safe, but he had a lot of openings, and it allowed me to make an easy drop, line up on this fish, and it is a huge black grouper. Now I just put this injector rod on my pole spear, and I already knew it was going to be toast because of the size of the fish. So I decided to stab my spear into the ground, let the fish fight itself, get my hands on in the gills, and Ricky saw, he takes off after that black grouper, and I get both hands on each side of this spear. Fish isn't going anywhere. Landed a huge grouper. Amazing start to the day.
Dude, I just put this injector rod on too. It's fucking pretzeled. Woo. It's a decent one. Sig special. Dude, I think this is still good.
Spearo, what did I do? Dude, I wrecked my gear. Freaking torched it. But dude, look at that. You wanna grab?
Yeah, your hand up. Here.
Let's see that thing here.
good one. That can't be bad.
Yeah.
What happened? Ask Mario what happened. Mario, what happened, dude? Did I snake your fish?
Yeah, you did. It's okay. Because you're the superstar.
You can't reach down the
Oh,
You already made it. You already maxed out your dive.
I
You,
did
dude,
it.
you took a 20-second dive. You were maxed out. That's it.
Come on,
That's all you're good
gift
for.
you, my buddy.
No, that was awesome.
So you went and you stole Mario's fish?
I stole Mario's fish.
Who spotted the grouper?
I think we spotted at the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah, because I saw him and I was gonna go point him out to
So
him.
then it was about who was a better diver then, as far as who was gonna
Dude,
get
it was such a tough dive to get him to.
Oh, it was so easy. It was so easy. That was easy 40 foot.
out halfway in a hole.
No,
Yeah,
he was
even-
like in like a Swiss cheese hole, and
Nothing.
I could pick what hole I wanted. Shot him, and I like staked him to the ground and just let him like wear himself out, and then I got a hold of the fish and the gills, and then I just pulled everything out. One dive. Mario, you know you probably would.
You're welcome, bro.
You probably would have that up, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mario, you weren't gonna.
You don't think so?
No way.
I don't know.
Mario, you don't have. Honestly, you don't have the ability to. You know.
Mario can hit
You
it.
don't have the resume. You don't have the resume to pull up.
Mario's on. I thought you were on zero duty.
Right.
I thought you were on zero duty.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna get one real quick.
I saw one. I saw one cruise around. Mario's on zero detail.
That big, I think you might have been able to hit that.
Now that we kind of have an idea what kind of fish to expect in this area, we know what to look out for. This is Ricky's GoPro. He hops in the water, swims a little bit, sees, and this is a little bit deeper than the last spot. It's around probably, I'd say 50 feet. He spots this black grouper in this little crack. The grouper thinks he's hidden. Ricky, kind of eases up, tries to use the rock to hide himself from the grouper as he approaches, and then he was either gonna come around the edge or possibly wait for the grouper to pop out. He comes right up around that corner. Grouper really doesn't see him. Lands a really good shot, but unfortunately it tears out. I'm at the surface. I actually have the pro camera, and I try to book it and keep up with this fish. Try to catch him on, catch him rocking up. You can see me at the surface there, heading that direction. And sure enough, I end up seeing this guy rock up in a ledge. Ricky does a breathe up, goes down, lands a backup shot, and whenever they rock up like this, they're pretty much there to stay. So really try to get a good backup shot on this fish. Ricky he ended up, seeing a nice little gap, puts a spear in the fish, which isn't a bad idea. But one thing I did notice is he kept his belt reel on and spooled it out. If you have them rocked up like this and you put a spear in the fish, best idea, if you have time, again, don't push it. If you have time, detach your belt reel so you don't have the line stringing up from the surface and have to make another dive to unattach your belt reel. Or if you have the Rob Allen, you can always detach it from your belt and just let it sink to the bottom and retrieve all your gear later. But we ended up getting that grouper, another spear in that grouper. This is Ricky's grouper, but I think it was Derek or Garrett ended up taking a drop and thought they saw Ricky's grouper and put a pull spear in the face of that grouper and said they stoned it. And as I went down, I was like, this fish is not stoned. So I'm trying to get Ricky's grouper out of this hole, but his spear is still stuck and lodged in the hole. And I'm like, okay, this fish on top is definitely brained, and I'm trying to find a way to get Ricky's spear dislodged. And as I do that, so his fish is at the top right there. As I do that, I look at this other spear that somebody shot in this hole, and I kind of reach in there, and I'm like, oh my god, there's two fish in here. So somebody accidentally shot another grouper in the same hole, and who would have ever thought? But luckily it was a good sized grouper, not as big as Ricky's, but still a decent grouper, perfect eating size. So I go ahead and try to fish this guy out of the hole, reach it in there, and this one is for sure stoned. It was a brain shot. So just to slide him out, it wasn't too hard. It was a little lodged, but I ended up ripping out, using the injector or the slip tip Dyneema, and started wiggling the fish, shimmied him out of there. And I know somebody else is on their way down to take care of this other grouper, and I believe Ricky might have cut the line and reached over, got hit the other part of his pole spear out, and then pulled the fish up shortly after I did this dive. And it was definitely a long dive, but I don't mind pushing myself a little bit when I have good divers with me.
Yes.
Okay. Cut the cable on yours. What?
Yeah, you can cut it. It's right there. And you can see the shot going into his back. Just cut it and then pull Garrett's spear. And then you'll go back and get yours because there won't be any pressure on the pole. So you'll be able to like dislodge it.
Yeah, cut the cable on yours.
All right, Ricky, what happened? Putting you on the spot. What happened?
Took the shot I got and created 30 minutes of madness.
Yeah, it was a little chaotic. We had to kind of finagle a plan and figure it out, but we got it done. All else fails, just get extra shafts in the fish and cut cables and slide the fish out. That's exactly what happened. There was an innocent bystander, that smaller child grouper took the spear. Who would have known? I mean, yeah, but. At this point, we were all kind of groupered out, so we decided to find a different area, and again, it was structure we found just using Google Earth. And this area proved to be freaking incredible. It was just some rubble in the middle of nowhere that we came across. Again, we had no idea what to expect, so every spot, we probably checked about 20 spots like this. Some were total busts, some held a little bit of fish. This one had a nice mangrove, and I really should have held off on shooting, but I wanted to test out that sling. Again, it was shooting perfectly. Nice little turtle kind of cruising away. I didn't even see him until after I shot. But as I was at the surface, braining and bleeding this mangrove snapper, I drift off of the spot a little bit, and I see a freaking huge African pompano. And so at that point I was like, oh great, now I have to deal with, getting this fish off. I have to, get him in the boat. So I just tucked this fish into my waistband, and we're gonna actually switch over to Ricky's GoPro, because right after I said there was a big AP, this happens moments later. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this film run out, and then at the end of it, I'm gonna switch over to my GoPro where I'm about to do a dive right after I saw that big African pompano. As I said before, switching over to my GoPro here, again, I had no clue that Ricky had shot an African pompano at the moment. I was just making drops. I was doing a lot of grunting, maybe kicking up some sand, and as I was down, I saw an African pompano kind of heading my direction. So I make it all the way to the bottom, and that's what I suggest you do. Just go to the bottom, do some grunting. If you know APs or yellow jacks or something, is in the area, and just hope that the fish kind of come to you. And that's what I was doing on this dive, and sure enough, here comes an African pompano coming right to me. I make sure all my line is set, kick up some sand, but it's swimming kind of funny. I thought it was maybe swimming with the current, and it took me a second to realize I couldn't see the line, but that was Ricky's AP that he has on his pole spear right now. I look up to him, I hold up the number 2 to ask if he wants a backup shot, and he kind of gave like, I guess. So I'd rather be safe than sorry, especially since I was already on a dive. Land a backup shot. Again, I'm just testing this Hawaiian sling, putting it to the test, seeing if it can engage properly on every shot. Sure enough, it has, and we get another shot in this fish. Now it's time to just work it up to the surface. Now that you have another shaft in it, it makes it to where you can actually horse the fish up and get your hands on them and secure your catch.
Big AP. Whew.
Nice job. Garrett saw you going. He's like, he's following something, and then we saw you go down.
There's one. There was a male in there that was way bigger than this.
Nice job.
Yeah. Don't get picky.
Yeah, I'd take that one all day long.
All right, hold him.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Grab that. Woo! So we got a shitload of line. Get around.
At this point, I was really eager to get one on the Hawaiian sling. No better way to put this sling, slip tip, whole setup than to shoot an African pompano and let it rip some line off the reel. So I made a drop. I saw this African pompano. It was really funny. It was looking, almost working like a mutton with all these white margay. And it was just kind of hanging around near the bottom. It was a younger one, so it had some streamers on it still off of its fins. So I wasn't really pressing it too hard. Realistically, the method that Ricky did, where he just kind of booked it towards the fish, it seemed to work. I've never really seen them act like that to where you can approach them. Normally, they just, if you show them any attention, they're gone. But for some reason, these guys were reacting well to people going to the fish, and you'll see in some future clips the same exact thing. I decided to stay true with what I thought, stay to the bottom, grunt, hope that they come in, and if they don't give me a shot, I'll just hope for another try.
It's weird, there's like an AP swimming like a mutton on the bottom down here. It's a smaller one. It's like just coming out of tassel stage.
We switch over to Derek's camera right now, and he doesn't get an African pompano. We're roughly in the same kind of structure, but he does get a mangrove snapper on this dive. But you'll see something different that he's using that I don't really use, and you'll find out why a little bit later in the video. I've seen it happen multiple times, but he spears this mangrove snapper. Everything is fine. He does well, you know, all the way. I've dove with him maybe 3 trips before this, before this one, and he's been using Dyneema as shot line. Now the Headhunter comes with cable, stainless steel cable, and this is a good alternative, mainly because if you run into an issue, you can just cut the slip tip line, the line with your knife, or if a shark gets a hold of it, it just grabs the slip tip and you don't have the chances of losing your pole spear. But if you keep watching later in this video, you will see how that could pose a problem, and I'll go over it once that happens. This is shortly after. Again, we're still working roughly the same area. We're kind of a little bit spread out, not right on top of each other. But again, we're not really pushing our limits while we're here. and the conditions are beautiful. You could see each other pretty much off in the distance. And if anybody ran into any issues, you know, we're right near each other. But I threw the throw flasher, make a drop, grab the flasher. I'm doing a ton of grunting. Again, I'm trying to get that African pompano on pole spear. I'm dying to get one. Or sorry, on a Hawaiian sling. I'm dying to get one on Hawaiian sling. I have gotten one before, but it was on my old setup. And I would love to test this slip tip out, really kind of, you know, see it engage properly, especially on a big fish like that. But again, I'm grunting, seeing a bunch of mangrove snapper, and just seeing life is a good thing. I'm trying to hold my breath, stay down there just enough to where maybe an African pompano would come by. But just keeping my eyes peeled. I feel like these things just sneak up on you out of nowhere all the time. So I'm just panning my head around, doing the grunting, not really giving up on the grunting. I see a decent hogfish. I haven't seen, none of us has really seen many great hogfish, and we really only had like 1 or 2 in the box. So I'm contemplating shooting this one. I saw my slip tip was a little off, but I decided to turn, and there are some APs that just bombarded me. Now I kind of line up myself, lunge out towards them, and I should have shot just a hair sooner or been a little bit more patient. He was turning away, and once they start turning away and I shot, he was already momentum that side, and he kind of veered and dodged the shot.
I missed.
We're gonna do a little foreshadowing here, and I'm gonna play the next couple clips with Derek spearing some fish. So this is, again, same area. There's a little bit of structure over here. There's some nice mangroves, a tiny little cave. Again, we're still keeping our eyes out for some APs. Derek sees a nice mangrove snapper, lands a shot. You see the Dyneema working perfectly fine, which is, you know, really what happens majority of the time. Lands this nice mangrove, another fish in the box. And again, Derek is lethal with this pole spear. And again, just adding fish to the cooler. That Dyneema works perfectly fine right through the fish. He heads up to the surface, and then go ahead and do a breathe up. We're about to do another dive, and again, he's spearing another fish, except it's going to be a pelagic. And there's also another little tip on this dive that I wanted to add. Has nothing to do with the Dyneema. Lands a good shot on this Spearo. Thing takes off, which is nice, because and using the belt reel really gives you a great advantage, because if you're using just the pole spear, you're holding on, and there's a chance of that fish ripping out. With the belt reel, you can give them slack if they need it, and then rip them up, you know, whenever the fish is worn out. And this fish actually reminds me of something that happened a couple trips ago, where a barracuda demolished a Spearo mackerel. So I ended up yelling to Derek to grab a hold of his fish, watch out for that barracuda, because if you haven't seen that video, one of my Spearo mackerel, bigger than that one, got obliterated by a barracuda, and it made me a little bit bitter, but it also made me learn the lesson. And I was trying to share it with Derek, let him know that cudas will mess up some Spearos if you let them hang down for a little bit too long. But we switch back to we switch back to Derek's GoPro, and he sees some African pompanos on a later dive. These things are coming in. He does a really good job of being patient, grunting. They swam away, and he kind of just went to pop up a little bit, keep grunting, and this thing beelined it right to him. The bigger one is off in the distance. Actually, no, I think he got the bigger one, but we're just wondering what happened. He landed a really good shot. Zero reason that thing should tear out, and it didn't tear out.
It just tore out.
You see what happened? That Dyneema cut, and I've seen it happen multiple times before him. I've seen people shoot cuberas, and it cuts right through it. If you shoot through the gill plate, I've seen people shoot muttons, and it cuts right through the gill plates. So also big black grouper, I've seen it tear, like cut right through the Dyneema. So in my opinion, if anybody asks my recommendation, I say definitely use cable what is given to you by a head hunter. This was just another drop where these APs were getting just so close, but just not close enough. That was a smaller one that came in really close. I could have probably lunged out and tried to go after it, but I decided to hold off for the bigger one. If I'm going to get one, I want to make sure it's a good one, and it's with the sling. Unfortunately, this was one of my final drops at this spot. And again, they were everywhere, but unfortunately, I couldn't get them or seal the deal on this drop. So just cut my losses. Maybe I'll get another African pompano another time. Right before I decided to head into the boat, I just was doing one last Hail Mary drop, tossed the little flasher, was hoping an AP would come in. I'm sure probably, you know, one came in and I made a through the flasher. But again, they were really finicky. Made a drop, picked up the flasher, put it in my put it in the sleeve, the leg sleeve of my wetsuit. Sitting at the bottom, again, doing all the grunting, kicking up a little dirt, and I look off in the distance and I see a nice hogfish. And this is a proper hogfish, not any like we've been seeing before. Want to test out that sling again. Landed a good shot through the fish, plenty of power, plenty of penetration. That slip tip engaged perfectly. Definitely going to be trying this out again. And the way that slip tip is held on is by a little O-ring. So that's the only thing I really have to keep track of is this O-ring that sometimes slides up the line of the spear. But finally, glad we have a proper hogfish to bring home.
Finally shot a proper hog.
As I'm dealing with this hogfish, Ricky makes another drop, and again, this is his day. He does his the same technique as he saw the fish come in. He makes a drop, beelines it to the fish, does a ton of grunting. They must love his grunting call. Lands a really good shot, lets the line peel out, doesn't want to put too much pressure on the fish. Slip tip securely engaged, and once he hits the surface, he calls out, and after I give that fish to the boat, I haul butt to help him out.
Yo! I need a backup.
Now Ricky starts working this fish, getting it to where he's right over top of him. I'm over top of him. A couple of times I did, look to him and I told him, give him the thumbs up to like pull the fish up, because I was gassed. Just, making sure I could get over to him to defend from sharks. He ended up like leaving it down there a little bit. As I was catching up, the fish got a little bit more life and just kept giving these little death throw kicks that just kept him right, wouldn't really give me a shot. And now I'm hurting on breath, so I give a shot, and look at this spear. It literally curves around the face of the fish, and that could have been me moving my hand a little bit on the shot, not being super steady. I kind of laughed, got to the surface, had a little dialogue.
I was trying to rip it. Yeah, here, I got you. Hold on. I just hauled ass over here. Yeah, just kind of ease him up, and then if he runs, just like that. Okay. Yeah, just bring him up so I'll have to go deep for him. Okay. Okay.
Now, after seeing that shark, I told Ricky, I'm like, dude, pull this thing up. We need to get it out of the water. He pulled it up. I was going to take the next shot I got, even if it was a tail shot. Landed kind of a center shot as close as I could to the fish, but it was a good shot. It hit the bloodline, started pouring blood, beautiful African pompano, another one, and we are stoked for this because kind of a rarity to get these beautiful APs.
Nice, dude. This one's bigger. It's a good one, dude. There we go. Ricky, AP Slayer.
If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it that thumbs up. If you're new, consider subscribing. I drop a video every week. We got part 2 coming at you next. I'll see you guys next week for another adventure. Later.